We're not starting with Trudeau, but we're starting with someone that's going to make you equally angry. But before we even get going, look at the reporter behind him. Very eager to ask him a question. Let's listen to liar, liar Marco Mendicino.
How is it? And we have questions. Come on.
Why didn't your staff tell you what's the explanation?
How is it credible that all of the most senior staff who are paid for by taxpayers and government and the PCO and the Prime Minister's office and your office knew, but somehow you and the Prime Minister were only told after the fact? How is that in any way credible to the average person who goes to their job and does their job every day?
Okay, stop.
First of all,
stop.
let's all...
I don't want to get into the analysis before I... Context. Paul Bernardo, serial killer, Satan incarnate, who's been in a maximum security prison. It's supposed to be for the rest of his life, but I think maybe he's like up for parole in 25 years or something. Paul Bernardo, probably one of the sickest humans to come out of Canada. I see there's a bunch of jokes there, but I'll leave that one alone. Was apparently transferred from a maximum security prison in Ontario to a medium security prison in Quebec. And apparently, after it sparked a buttload of backlash, Marco Mendicino, who's the Minister of Justice, or I forget what it is, I'll get the exact title, apparently he didn't know. So this reporter, after a bit of a kerfuffle, asked him a very clear question. It was a little long, but her question was, how is it plausible that you didn't know and you expect the average Canadian to believe that? And look at this smug liar's face. I'm trying not to swear. I'm a little cranky today. I'm trying not to swear. Look at this smug face. And she asked him a question, and watch how he does everything he can to not answer the question.
The average person who goes to their job and does their job every day.
Okay. First of all, let's all take a breath.
Let's all take a breath. You hysterical woman. Stop. Calm down. Just calm down. I'm going to get to your question in a second. Once you calm down, woman. Let's take a breath. Why don't you just call her hysterical, Marco Mendicino?
And I want to be responsive to your questions. What I said was...
I want to be responsive to your questions. How about instead of saying that, just answer the question?
That I would be coming down to take more questions in this afternoon. But what I would say...
And then you didn't cut your off
we waited for 5 hours for you yesterday.
5 hours.
Well, I'm here right now. And
I'm sorry. I want to be responsive. So I'm going to tell you how I want to be responsive. But you could have asked questions later. We waited for 5 hours. Well, I'm here now, not answering your question. Calm down.
Here again. Absolument. Tout à fait. But I agree with you that there is a challenge there, which is why we have taken steps to address that through...
I agree with you that there is a challenge there. The question was, how do you expect people to believe your stupid, bull-faced lie that you did not know that Paul Bernardo was being transferred from a maximum security prison in Ontario to a minimum or moderate, or whatever they call it, mid-range? How did you not know that? Do you expect us to believe that? I agree, there's challenges there.
Actions internally, as well as by making sure that the CSC works very closely with victims' families going forward.
Why didn't your staff tell you? Why didn't your staff tell you? Why didn't your staff tell you? What's the explanation?
Oui, il faut montrer un peu de respect. Oui.
You have to show some respect.
Comme j'avais mentionné,
like I said,
je vais prendre action concrète.
I'm going to take concrete action.
Les questions de mon équipe.
I'm going to talk to my team.
Tout le monde que oui, c'est absolument nécessaire.
It's necessary that he needs to receive the briefings in real time. This guy is a pathological liar. This is the same Marco Mendicino who lied about truckers threatening women in Ottawa with rape. This is the same Marco Mendicino. Now, when asked quite clearly, do you expect us to believe that you were not briefed that Paul Bernardo was going to be transferred from a maximum security to a mid-range security prison? Do you expect us to believe that you weren't briefed on it? And if you weren't briefed, how does that happen? Are you not in charge? And it goes on. Let's just do a few more seconds while everyone trickles in.
En plus, j'avais publié une nouvelle direction ministérielle pour assurer que les SCC vont travailler ensemble avec des familles de victimes.
Why didn't your staff tell you? Why did not?
Is it standard operating procedure at your office that you are kept in the dark? And will you let anyone go in response to the handling of this?
Of course not. And
of course not. What? Not going to let. It's not normal
to make sure that we are identifying issues where there are challenges on information flow.
Challenges on information flow. But by the way, I'm calling it now. This is my prediction because I know that Marco Mendicino is a liar because he's a proven liar. He knew. That's my assessment. They knew that Bernardo was getting transferred from a maximum security to a mid-range security prison. And they didn't tell anybody because they wanted to avoid the public backlash. And once the public discovered this obscene piece of information, what does Marco Mendicino do? I didn't know. I mean, I'm in charge. My staffers did not tell me that they were transferring a convicted serial killer and worse. I don't know how you can get worse than that. He knew. And like all liars, when they get caught having screwed up, they lie. It's just unacceptable that I wasn't told what was going on. And how could they do this to me? I would never. Oh, no, no. This is the state of Canada. It's not even the bottom of the barrel of the lamentable state of Canada. We're going to get into it. But that's Marco Mendicino, people. And I'm back. I'm back in the temporary studio. The one thing I'm very happy about is I'm back to my good mic. This mic. Oh, yeah. How's everybody doing? I'm cranky today. I know when I'm cranky. I know when I'm cranky because not because I look at other people and am angry with them. I get angry at everything about myself. I don't feel good. I feel I'm judgmental on my own demeanors. I'm judgmental on myself. I know I'm cranky. I got back from Arizona at midnight last night, Eastern time. Didn't get to bed until later. Woke up early. The dogs were happy to see me. The dogs were so happy to see me that one pooped all over the place. And that's it. I'm back in Canada. Seeing this, back for the summer, but witnessing the asylum in real time. And it's like people are too scared to even say the state of Canada is not good. People are too scared to admit it. They're too scared to recognize it because it involves recognizing that they've made some bad decisions to let Canada get here. But it's interesting. Anyways, I'm back. What are we going to talk about today? We've got a bunch of things. We've got two stories coming out of Canada. One, they're not coming after your kids, people. Until they come after your kids, people, Toronto Public School Board, TPSB, that's it, has just made a new school that has gender-neutral bathrooms in it. Because remember, people, gender is a social construct. And when it comes to the sex biological reasons for having biologically segregated bathrooms, well, all of a sudden, gender becomes a biological part of the discussion. And you could imagine what is happening is alleged to have already started happening. This is an article coming out of, I want to say the National Post. I'll get to it in a bit. Boys flashing their penises at girls, girls complaining that the washrooms are nasty, that there's pee all over the toilet seat because, girls always pee on the toilet seat and boys, they have no biological reason for which they would be a higher propensity of urinating on the toilet seat. Growing up in our family, 4 boys, 1 girl, we didn't lift the toilet seat when we peed. And my mother would go crazy. She said, lift the toilet seat. And then she just finally gave up and said, look, if you're not going to lift the toilet seat, at least wipe it down after you're done peeing and dribbling on the toilet seats. Okay, that's one thing that's coming out of Canada. We'll get to it. The other thing that's coming out of Canada, and this one's of particular interest, it sort of merges with the discussion about Dr. Peter Hotez, who refuses to have a discussion with the lowly pleb conspiracy theorist Robert F. Kennedy Jr. People are saying, there's no point debating the jab, debating the efficacy of the jab. Debating the efficacy of the jab is like having a flat earth argument because the jab was so efficient and so effective that it's as much of an incontrovertible, uncontestable fact that the earth is round or spherical shaped. It's incontestable. Because if it weren't as effective as it was, and it did have all the problems that people say it has now, well, why aren't we seeing excess mortality? Oh, spoiler alert, people. I'll show you an article coming out of Nova Scotia. Alberta, last year, I think, was announcing, or at the end of last year, announcing that deaths of unknown causes was now the leading cause of death in Alberta. It took over Alzheimer's. Nova Scotia doesn't understand what's happening, but it seems that excess mortality is through the roof, and doctors are baffled. Experts are baffled. One of the contributing factors is diseases of the heart. We'll get there. Then we're going to break down the Dr. Peter Hotez, Joe Rogan, RFK Jr. dispute, and there's a lot more stuff. So what do we start with while we're on Rumble? For those of you who are new to the channel, oh, I'm such an idiot. Did I not look to see that we were, in fact, good on all platforms? Let me make sure that we're good on Rumble, where we should be simultaneously live streaming, and we are. Let me make sure that we're good in vivabarneslaw.locals.com, which we are. I was just on Jack Posovic's human events. I was on with Jack at 2 o'clock talking about, oh, that's right, Hunter Biden. We're going to talk about Hunter Biden. It's corruption through and through, people. We're going to get to all of this. Okay. Let's start with the gender bathrooms. Let's just do that. Oh, so what happens, by the way? I'm losing my train of thought. We start on YouTube, Rumble, and Locals. I'm exclusive with Rumble, so what I do is I end on YouTube. Everyone can come over to Locals. It's Rumble. It's Viva Fry on Rumble. The link to the Rumble link is pinned up there. I post either the entire stream or clips on YouTube afterwards. It just won't be live. And then afterwards, we go to Locals for a little Locals only after party. I take some of the tips in Locals, answer the questions, and talk to our Locals community who are all above average. These things called Rumble rants and super chats. YouTube takes 30% of super chats. Rumble ordinarily takes 20% of their equivalent Rumble rants. For the rest of the year, they're not taking any of it. 100% goes to the creator. So you can feel better supporting the creator and a platform that supports free speech, because Rumble does, as we're going to see with this whole RFK Jr. tonight on Rumble, 7 o'clock. I think he's having his first live stream. You can hit the like button, thumbs up, all that other stuff. Share is the easiest non-monetary way of supporting the channel. You can get merch at vivafry.com. You can become part of the community for no fee at vivabarneslaw.locals.com, or become a supporter, $7 a month, $70 a year, yada, yada, yada. You know where it goes. Okay, we're going to do the 2 Canadian stories on the YouTube, even if they get me in trouble. Then we're going to go over to Rumble, and then to Locals. Okay, guys, so this is the story. I'm reading the headline. And I'm gonna draw your attention to the highlights of this story. It came from the Toronto Star. Isabel Tirtonio, education reporter. Hold on. What do you want? Get over here. Get over here. Oh, yeah. He's here. Hold on. Oh, yeah. Get your leg out of there. All right, people. Let's just, did I bring this up yet? Bring it down for 1 second. Winston would like to say hello. Hello, interwebs. I am your overlord, Winston. All hail, Winston. Okay, get down. Okay. Bring it back to the stream. Toronto Star. TDSB, which is the Toronto District School Board, introduced its first school without gender-specific washrooms. Here's how it's playing out. Spoiler alert, it's having some of the problems that everybody thought it would be having. Gender neutral, non-gender specific, meaning, it's fine. They do it in Europe, I guess. I'm not sure that they do it for locker rooms for grade school kids. I'm not sure. Some parents of kids at Toronto's first and only public school with all gender neutral washrooms are calling on the board to add separate facilities for boys and girls, saying they have concerns around safety, hygiene, and comfort. Who would have thunk? Oh, what's that? You're a menstruating girl and you have to apply a tampon, and you don't necessarily want to be doing that when boys are running in and out of the bathroom, or boys who say they're girls and they want to relate to the experience of inserting tampons. The Toronto District School Board, however, is defending the decisions made in the construction of its newest school, Jean Lum. I keep thinking it says Jean Dumb Public School. Jean Lum Public School, saying it was an opportunity, say the line, Bart, to create a more inclusive environment, and that anyone uncomfortable using the multi-stall washrooms can access standalone single-user accessible facilities. Let's break this down, people, shall we? This is our first footnote. It was an opportunity to create a more inclusive environment. How? By allowing biological males in the restrooms for biological girls? I mean, how is that inclusive if what you're doing is actually making people uncomfortable? How is it inclusive if what you're actually doing is denying the biological necessity that created sex-specific washrooms in the first place? How did it get to gender for biological divisions of bathrooms when gender is a social construct, as the argument goes, but sex is not? But listen, this is the best part of it. Anyone uncomfortable using the multi-stall washrooms can access standalone single-user facilities. What do you think happens when someone comes out of that scarlet letter gender-specific stall? What do you think someone's going to say about them? If it's inclusive to go into these gender-neutral bathrooms, well, it would be exclusive, almost bigoted for anyone to decide to publicly use the single-gender, single-stall bathroom. What's going to happen? You don't have to be a rocket scientist. You don't have to be paranoid or conspiratorial to know that what is going to happen is that anybody using those bathrooms because they don't feel comfortable in the inclusive bathrooms is going to be labeled a bigot, intolerant, turf, whatever it is that you want to go by. That's what's going to happen. Oh, it's like separate but equal. Here's your water fountain. Oh no! Oh, you don't want to be share it and inclusively with everybody. Well, go get your segregated bathroom, and we're going to know who the bigots are in the school if they use that bathroom. Gender-neutral washrooms in schools promote inclusivity and reduce bullying and discrimination based on gender. What in the name of the sweet holy hell are you talking about, Alexis Dawson? Said trustee Alexis Dawson, adding they offer, quote, a safe and private space for all students, end quote, and help create a more accepting environment. There are moms and dads who support this and those who are indifferent. Moms and dads who support this, some might, hey, how about you can make your own bathrooms? I mean, maybe that if that's activists, and I dare say people who might not even have an interest in it saying, I accept it because it's inclusive. It makes me feel good to say that I tolerate inclusivity, even if that inclusivity is actually exclusionary to girls who don't feel comfortable doing these things. Some who are indifferent, no. Some who are too shy to speak out because they don't want to face the backlash of being the bigot that goes into the sex-specific or single-stall washroom because you don't feel comfortable in the gender-neutral inclusive washroom. But a group representing roughly 125 parents in the elementary school say kids have peeked beneath stall doors and kicked them while girls are inside, and a boy once exposed himself to a girl. And I say this not to say it to be funny. Did that boy identify as a girl? I mean, do we have to live in a world where that boy exposed her penis to another girl? Maybe he just wanted to be inclusive. Hey, look, I've got a vagina like you, except mine's a bulge. My vagina sticks out and is a penis. Did that boy identify as a girl? And if that boy did identify as a girl, is that not just, girls will be girls and change in the locker rooms? They also say the washrooms, which only have toilets and no urinals, because boys don't have a little hose thing with which to pee. Girls can pee standing up just as easily. I mean, maybe they can actually. I don't know about that. They say they have no urinals. Inclusive. It's inclusive. Get the boys to piss all over the toilet seats that the girls have to use. And dirty because urine is left on seats, with boys suspected of being the main culprit. They're suspected? Until I see video evidence of a girl urinating, standing up, and getting it all over the place, don't suspect the boys. Know it's the boys. There's nothing wrong with saying that I know that it's the things with the things that make the pee the way the boys do that are getting it on the toilet seat. They say the current setup can be uncomfortable for menstruating girls who need to unwrap a sanitary napkin or tampon within earshot of boys. It's very inclusive. It's so inclusive. And if you're a girl that feels uncomfortable doing this, you're a bigot. There's something wrong with you. Do you know what it's called? Getting a child to do something to overcome the feeling of discomfort with something that is naturally uncomfortable. It's called grooming in most places. Getting a kid to feel comfortable. Hold on a second. I just felt like I might have lost my computer. Get kids to get over the fact that they feel uncomfortable with something that's fundamentally unnatural. Okay. No, I don't know why Siri is listening to me here. There's a word for it, and it's not a good word because it's not normal to try to pressure kids into feeling comfortable with something that there is a natural and good reason for which they would feel uncomfortable. It's embarrassing it's embarrassing talking about this stuff with kids. They say the current setup can be uncomfortable with the other. Muslim parents, why is Siri just continually going off here? Muslim parents feel their religion isn't being respected because a Muslim girl cannot remove her hijab in front of males. Something she may do as part of wudu, a purification ritual is performed before prayers, which includes washing their faces. The group of parents at this school, it's inclusive, by the way, just not for Muslims. And Muslims, like the ones that we saw in Ottawa, if you don't accept it, you're bigots. And according to some of the liberals, send them home. And I'm not saying that because I said that. That was a proud liberal. I forget her name, and it doesn't really matter. She probably ended up blocking me on Twitter. A proud liberal saying, send them home if they don't like the freedoms and the inclusivity that we are imposing on them. The group of parents at this school with about 550 students, kindergarten to grade 8, say they're not opposed to gender-neutral washrooms. They just want one set of multi-stall washrooms transformed so that one is available for anyone identifying as male and the other for those who identify as female. You mean, so they have one? How about they just have one that's for people who identify as other than their biological sex at birth? Truly inclusive environment where every single child in school has a choice and nobody feels forced to do anything and nobody is afraid, said one mother, noting kids are particularly vulnerable in washrooms because they're unsupervised. The Star spoke with about 10 frustrated parents who asked not to be identified. Oh, because of fears of possible repercussions. It's almost like the system works, right? The mob system works. We spoke with people, and the ones that are indifferent, they're not indifferent. In part because this involves gender identity issues and they don't want to be perceived as discriminating against anybody. Scott McMillan, the father of a boy in senior kindergarten, has no problem with exclusively gender-neutral washrooms. Oh, that's good for him. When he was growing up, there were always gendered washrooms, but the world is a different place now, he said, noting that many restaurants and public spaces have gender. Different does not mean better, and progress for the sake of progressivism is not necessarily progress. And this might just be the world having gone batshit crazy. While safety is a concern for some parents, he said, if there's a safety issue, then deal with that safety issue. It's not a gender or non-gendered bathroom issue. Oh. They'll just go on. As a council, we have chosen to remain neutral on non-gendered washrooms because we have heard many conflicting perspectives within our community, said Milan in an email to the Star. Many do not share concerns this group has raised around the non-gendered multi- and single-stall washrooms. Some are indifferent. Some are vehemently opposed to making a change. Some are proud that our school follows progressive guidelines. Some feel their concerns have been addressed with steps taken or proposed by the school. Okay, whatever. The concerned parents at Jean Lum say they're upset the Toronto District School Board didn't consult them about the school having only gender-neutral washrooms, with one saying it feels like they're part of a social experiment of sorts. Spoiler alert, you are. We all are. I don't know if it started with 2020, but it sure as heck has gotten worse from then. The Toronto District School Board says that because this was a brand new school on a new site, there were no formal discussions with parents and guardians about washrooms, but rather broader community consultations about the school. My goodness, and it goes on. All right. Here, I'll give everybody the link so you can go read this rubbish. No, it's just if you know, we'll make a bathroom for the bigots. Then, we'll just put a B on it. It won't be for boys. It'll be for bigots. Or maybe they put B and G. Go use the bathroom for your designated sex, bigot, if you're not inclusive enough. Oh, what's that? You don't like, let's have the period bathroom. That's going to be only for menstruating girls. That'll be equally as embarrassing. Oh, you're menstruating? Get the bullhorn. Go into the menstruating girls' bathroom if you don't want to be inclusive with the other boys. I think people are disrespecting women. It is misogyny and it is homophobia in real time. You're telling women they are. When I went to the protest and I had a brief discussion with a counter protester who says, I couldn't answer what a woman is. A woman, it's a set of patterns. Oh, sure, that sounds misogynistic or misandry. Like we're sets of patterns. Yeah, biological sets of patterns. That a biological woman carries a baby or can. Yes, some biological women cannot carry a baby. That does not mean that they're not a woman. Yeah, we appreciate that argument. XX chromosome, XY chromosome. Oh, yes, there's intersex. We know that there's a scientific anomaly of someone who has the external parts of a male, but the chromosomes of a female. Yeah, there's anomalies. They're genetic, scientific, diagnosable anomalies. They're not whimsical anomalies that depend on what a 12-year-old kid says they feel like on any given day of the week. And they come in and say, well, if you're a 12-year-old boy who feels like a girl, you're not gay. You should go mutilate your body. We can convert you that way, but under Bill C-4 in Canada, we can't tell you. You might feel confused. You might just be a gay person, and you'll grow out of whatever feelings you have right now. And one day you might just realize, hey, you were just a confused gay person living in a heterosexual centric society. I don't even know if it's heterosexual centric anymore, but you're just a kid who's going through some things. You got talked out of making lifelong, life-altering decisions. Can't do that anymore. Parents can go to jail. Psychiatrists can go to jail. Psychologists can go to jail in Canada in real time because Bill C-4, the ban on conversion therapy, is law. And now you have school boards putting in Gender neutral in the name of inclusivity. And girls, you're just going to have to get used to it if you want to be inclusive. Anyways, it gets worse. We'll do one more story here. I think I just got the thumbnail from my thumbnail guy. What was I going to check here? I was going to check this. Give me 1 second. We're going to refresh this. All right, the second story out of Canada. And it's going to segue us into the part 2. Peter Hotez. Let's pull this up. It's the latest. I saw a tweet the other day that said, that if the jabs were as bad as everybody says that they were, as RFK says they were, then why aren't we seeing excess mortality? And I couldn't find the tweet to respond to it, but lo and behold, interesting article coming out of CBC News, Nova Scotia, June 20th, 2023. Why StatsCan says Nova Scotia is seeing significant excess mortality, in quotes. Do you notice what the CBC is doing here, by the way? They're not saying that they're not confirming that Nova Scotia is experiencing significant, quote, excess mortality. They're merely saying StatsCan is saying it. That's Statistics Canada, and here's why they're saying it. Bottom line, Nova Scotia is seeing, quote, significant excess mortality according to the government itself. Why StatsCan says Nova Scotia is seeing significant excess mortality. Listen to this. COVID is one reason, but agency says data is still very incomplete. Oh, that's nice. COVID's one of the reasons. If you want to get to the other reasons, you're going to have to continue reading, which we will. A COVID-19 test is performed at Pearson International Airport. The Nova Scotia government says 875 Nova Scotians have died of COVID. Statistics Canada says there are several reasons behind the significant excess mortality Nova Scotia has been seeing since late July 2022. What period of time? Late July. What started happening in 2021? It's crazy. And by the way, I'm not even saying that it necessarily relates to the jab, because the article is going to say, oh, it relates to people not having gone to see their doctors, not having gotten to see early screenings, drugs, depression, isolation. Yeah, I agree with that too. All consequences of the government crime against humanity. It probably is not strictly related to potential diseases of the heart, as this article will get into. It probably is a bunch of contributing factors, all of which are the direct, foreseeable, and what was predicted to be the consequences of the ridiculous, unconstitutional, inhumane, and unscientific government response, lockdowns, and mandates. Excess mortality, also known as deaths above what would normally be anticipated, is a signal to public health officials that something concerning is happening and needs to be addressed. You know what else typically was a signal to, I want to use the right words. What else was a signal to public health officials that something concerning is happening and needs to be addressed? VAERS, don't swear. The kids are somewhere within earshot. VAERS used to be a signal to public health officials that something concerning is happening and needs to be addressed as relates to the administration of vaccines. That's what VAERS used to be. Ironic how they'll acknowledge excess mortality in some cases is an indication something's wrong and needs to be looked into. But now all of a sudden, when you had, what are they up to now? I don't know, tens of thousands. I don't think they're up to hundreds of thousands yet reported on VAERS. They might be. Yet on VAERS, when you have, let's just say, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of adverse events reported, nobody looks into it. It's all of a sudden it becomes like it's a willy-nilly thing. Anybody can do it. It's no big deal. That's what it used to be. Now, when it comes to the excess mortality being significantly higher than normal, the government's got to look into it. Indirect impacts of the pandemic have to be a factor. In quotes, such as missed medical appointments, treatments, or cases, especially in the early pandemic, where individuals have died from the virus prior to getting tested or treated, a spokesperson of the agency said in the statement. Okay. Excess mortality is one key measure that accounts for these effects. Colin Furness, an infection control epidemiologist at the University of Toronto, said excess mortality helps draw attention to deaths that aren't officially listed as resulting from COVID-19, even though it may have been a contributing factor. Oh, that's all of the excess deaths, COVID. Even though it's happening in July 2022, COVID. It's mental gymnastics to the point of stupidity. COVID has many pernicious effects all over the body, and we're just still learning that. And the bug is still evolving. It's COVID. It's still COVID, but go get jabbed up. Or it's not COVID, it's something else. Maybe you shouldn't have gotten jabbed up. If it is COVID now, So it's happening now. It's COVID related. We don't know the pernicious effects, the lasting effects of COVID. You should go get jabbed more and more. While Nova Scotia received praise early from the pandemic, that changed with the arrival of Omicron. Statistics Canada said the province started seeing periods of significant excess mortality in early 2022. By the way, do you know how vaccinated Nova Scotia was? Quite vaccinated. They're going to blame it. They're going to blame it on the variant and say people weren't getting vaccinated enough. It was COVID it's COVID causing the excess deaths, which means that something wasn't working, despite being told that it's working. It's a miracle. It singled out a 3 to 4 week period, February 12, 2022, during which there were a record 65 deaths from COVID-19 in the province. An estimated 1,014 excess deaths occurred over that time, which was 18.2% more than expected. Statistics, by the way, how far into this article are we now? Let's just count it. 1, in headline. The byline. 2, first paragraph, second paragraph, third paragraph, fourth paragraph, fifth paragraph, sixth paragraph, 7, 8. We're 9 paragraphs in. 10 paragraphs in. And they finally buried the lead. Statistics Canada singled out, quote, diseases of the heart, end quote, as another factor that may have contributed to excess mortality. It caused 175 deaths during that 4-week period. Furness said that COVID-19 has a terrible effect on the vascular system, so those deaths don't come as a surprise. I mean, there's just no way of making sense of the mental gymnastics. They're going to blame those heart-related deaths on, I guess it's going to have to be lingering effects of COVID infection prior to the vaccine, because that's the only way to maintain the narrative that the vaccine, the jab, worked, but didn't cause the problem, but that people are dying more now than they were before the jab, despite still getting COVID, because the jab is supposed to reduce the severity of the symptoms. So the only way to make sense of this, while preserving the narrative that the jab is safe, effective, and did not cause any heart issues, is to say that people are dying of diseases of the heart now as a delayed reaction to infection prior to the jab. That's going to have to be the mental gymnastics. You had COVID everywhere, and then you've got these heart attacks deaths in very, very close proximity to that, he said. That's very compelling. What else did you have everywhere? And then heart attack deaths in very, I mean, it is actually, it's too much to deal with. This is the expert. You've had COVID everywhere, and then you've got these heart attack deaths in very close proximity to that, he said. That's very compelling. Can we just replace the word COVID with jab mandates? Can you imagine? It's willful blindness. There's no way that an expert could be this stupid. I mean, there is, because as they say, experts are just people who know more and more about less and less. You had COVID everywhere. You know what else you had everywhere? Roughly 85% everywhere. There was something else that you had everywhere. And then you've got these heart attacks in very close proximity. That's very compelling, except I'm not looking at that. Statistics Canada also disclosed that during the 28-week period ending February 4, 2023, there were nearly 975 excess deaths, 70% more than expected. Age during that time, it said 200 deaths were COVID, while influenza and pneumonia accounts for 90 deaths. Comparable, whatever. Okay. Statistics Canada said the data it's been provided is still very incomplete, as in we haven't been able to interpret it the way we want yet. 30% of the deaths for the 28-week period, the cause has yet to be determined or reported to the emergency. Aging population. Statistics Canada said Nova Scotia's aging population is also part of the reason behind the excess mortality, but its modeling tries to account for factors like this. Here, I didn't give you the other article, everybody. Here, you can go read this one. So you understand, like that is the mental gymnastics that you're going to that will be the explanation. It's either going to be environmental, it's climate crisis causing heart attacks, heart disease, sedentary behavior, despite the fact that we were told to sit down and lock down, health, overall health, not getting exercise because you were being bribed into getting a jab with French fries and beer. I say that non-judgmentally. I enjoy eating bad food, but when you're trying to solve a problem that might be exacerbated by obesity and unhealthiness, telling people to lock down, sit in their homes, stress out, not get sunlight, not get exercise, that might have been a contributing factor as well. Government hand nonetheless. They're going to have to say that these excess deaths are the lingering effect of COVID infections prior to the jab. And that's it. And what we're seeing now, this death in close proximity to COVID infections, is very troubling. Okay. I think that's it. But that'll get us to the next subject of the day. We're going to go over to Rumble now. We're going to talk Peter Hotez Coward, the PhD in cowardice. There's just so much. I mean, there's only so much you can get into. We're going to talk about that. We are going to talk about Hunter Biden, sweetheart deal, probably the end of the investigation, all that entails. Welcome back, Viva. Thank you, Spitfire Red. It is, well, I'm not back now. I'll welcome you back when I get back to Florida, but now I got to, see family for the summer and have fun up here. And I don't know, is it the pits of despair or is it the cliffs of insanity? Either way, it comes from the Princess Bride, people. So, okay, I gave everybody the link to Locals, to Rumble. Head on over to Rumble. We're going to end this here. Actually, we're going to end this here in 1 second. Let me just check my notes in the backdrop. We're good. Yeah, we're good. All right. Peeps, go to Rumble. And we're going to carry this on over there. Ending on YouTube in 3, 2,